The sun, a relentless fist, hammers the corrugated tin roof of the border patrol station in the desert. Dust, fine as powdered bone, coats every surface, a perpetual reminder of the vast, unforgiving expanse that swallows the horizon. Here, the world shrinks to the shimmer of heat rising from the asphalt, the distant hum of a generator, and the rasp of your own breath in the parched air. You are Marcus Thorne, and this desolate outpost is your chosen exile. Your fingers, callous now from manual labor and the endless, repetitive tasks, trace the worn rim of a ceramic mug. The coffee inside is thick, bitter, a taste that mirrors the sediment of your days. The badge, once a gleaming promise pinned to your chest, feels like a phantom weight, a phantom ache. It was stripped from you, piece by agonizing piece, along with the reputation you'd meticulously built. The desert offers no judgment, only silence. It is a balm and a torment, a place where the ghosts of your past can roam unfettered, unseen by any living soul but yours. You watch the heat distort the distant mountains, their jagged peaks blurring into the sky. The murder of the investigative journalist, a brilliant mind, a relentless truth-seeker, still whispers in the quiet corners of your memory. It was your first major failure, the one that broke the chain, the one that branded you. They called it a random act, a street mugging gone wrong, and you, Marcus Thorne, could never prove otherwise. The official files, gathering dust in some forgotten archive, remain unchanged, untouched. A low growl disturbs the desert's quiet symphony. The sound grows, resolving into the distinct rumble of an approaching engine. Its polished surface reflects the brutal sunlight, a jarring mirror to the grimy reality of your existence. The driver's side door opens, and a man emerges. You recognize the cut, the expensive fabric, the air of authority that clings to him like a second skin. He is a superior, or was, from your former life. His presence here, in this forgotten corner of the world, is an anomaly, a disruption of the carefully constructed solitude you've built around yourself. He walks with an easy confidence, his eyes scanning the station, then settling on you. There's a flicker of something in his gaze, pity, perhaps, or a calculated assessment. He stops a few feet from your perch, the air between you suddenly charged with unspoken history. It is a voice that commands attention, a voice you once respected. It's been a long time. You offer no greeting, no pleasantry. The words taste like ash. You simply nod, a slight inclination of your head. We need your help. The words hang in the hot air, an absurd proposition. Your help? You, the disgraced, the exiled, the man who couldn't even close his own defining case. My help, you repeat, the words dry and brittle on your tongue. You must be mistaken. He steps closer, his gaze unwavering. The journalist. The name, unsaid yet understood, reverberates in your chest. The investigative journalist, whose meticulously researched expose on political corruption died with her. What changed, you ask, the question a reflex, the old instincts stirring, faint but undeniable. New evidence, the superior replies, his voice dropping, becoming conspiratorial. It resurfaced. A link, Marcus. To a prominent politician's current presidential campaign and something larger. The random act, the official narrative you fought against, now cracks and splinters. This isn't just about a murder anymore. This is about the rot, the insidious corruption you always suspected but could never prove. They dismissed it as a mugging, you state, your voice flat, a ghost of the anger you once held. They were wrong, he confirms, a grim set to his jaw. Or, perhaps, they'd wanted to be wrong. This new information. It points to a deliberate cover-up. A very powerful one. He pauses, letting the implications settle, letting the desert wind carry the weight of his words. We need someone. Outside the system. Someone who knows the case inside and out. Someone who has nothing left to lose. He looks directly into your eyes, a silent challenge. Someone who's already been broken by it. You're the only one, Marcus. The offer hangs there, a lifeline woven from the very threads of your downfall. The desert stretches, indifferent, but within you, a spark ignites. The ghosts are stirring, not just in your memory, but in the world beyond this sun-baked isolation. You are Marcus Thorne, and the game, it seems, is far from over. The desert wind, a phantom sculptor, carves the dunes into shifting monuments of indifference. You stand at the threshold of the border patrol station in the desert, the sun-baked adobe walls a stark contrast to the churning storm within you. The offer, a whisper of redemption, still echoes in the dry air. It feels like a gamble with a soul already lost, yet a sliver of something tenacious, something you thought long dead, stirs. The ghosts of your past, they demand answers, and this cold case, this forgotten death, might just be the key to silencing them, or condemning you further. Marcus Thorne, a voice cuts through the quiet hum of the station's generators. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, betray no warmth, only a calculated assessment. But beneath that crushing burden, a spark, stubborn and fierce, begins to glow. It is not hope, not yet, but a raw, unyielding need for truth. I have, you finally say, your voice rough, and used to such declarations. Where are the files? A flicker, almost imperceptible, crosses her face. Approval, perhaps, or merely the satisfaction of a task initiated. She gestures towards a heavy-duty transport case, resting on a nearby table, its surface scratched and worn from countless journeys. Everything we have. What was dismissed, what was ignored. And what has only now, in the glare of a looming election, begun to glow with a different kind of light. You approach the case, your fingers brushing the cold metal. It feels like unearthing a tomb. The clasp gives way with a soft click, revealing stacks of manila folders, each one a testament to a life brutally ended, a career abruptly halted. The scent of aged paper, stale coffee, and something else, a faint, metallic tang of forgotten ambition and dry tears, rises to meet you. You lift the first folder, its label stark, Julian Vance. Case 07-143. Unsolved. Julian Vance. The name is a brand on your memory, a scar from the early days, before the fall. A brilliant investigative journalist, too curious for his own good, found dead in a sterile, abandoned factory on the city's outskirts. Ruled a random act of violence, a robbery gone wrong. You remember the gnawing feeling, the details that never quite fit, the pressure to close the book. You remember the way the case was ripped from your hands, the sudden, inexplicable roadblocks. You pull out a thick stack of reports, the paper brittle at the edges. Autopsy results, witness statements, crime scene photos, the grim tableau of a life extinguished. You see the journalist's face in one of the photos, a vibrant, intelligent gaze now fixed and lifeless. He had been working on something big, even then. It was all dismissed as journalistic sensationalism, the ramblings of a man too eager for a headline. The liaison watches you, unmoving, a silent sentinel. The only sounds are the rustle of paper and the distant drone of a patrol vehicle. Hours bleed into one another. The desert outside transforms from blinding white to a canvas of bruised purples and oranges. Your fingers ache, your eyes burn, but you push through, driven by that stubborn spark. You find the original police report, the initial interviews. Dismissed as unreliable. You find the forensics report, detailing a unique ligature mark, almost artistic in its precision, on Vance's neck. Attributed to a common garrote. Then, buried deep within a supplementary report filed by a junior officer, a report you dimly recall being suppressed, you find it. A small, almost insignificant detail. Scrawled in the margin next to a list of Vance's personal effects. A single, stylized symbol etched onto a silver cufflink, found clutched in the journalist's hand. It's not a common design. It's a geometric pattern, intricate and precise, resembling a stylized, interlocking knot. Your breath catches. The knot. You've seen it before, recently. Not in a police file, but in a glossy campaign brochure, slipped under your door just last week, promoting the current presidential candidate. It was subtly incorporated into the candidate's official emblem, a symbol of unity and strength, according to the campaign's rhetoric. A symbol of a powerful, old money family whose patriarch was a major backer of the candidate. The connection hits you with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't a random act. Julian Vance hadn't just stumbled upon a story, he had stumbled into a web of power, a knot of influence so tightly woven it could strangle a man and erase his truth from history. The very fabric of justice, you realize with a sickening lurch, might already be unraveling, and this ancient, desert-bound station, with its dusty secrets, is where your own thread begins to pull. Who we are, as a nation. About the very identity we project to the world. He pushed the folder into your hands. Read it. Then tell me if the ghost of Ilara Vance allows you to refuse. The folder felt heavy, a physical manifestation of the unresolved grief and guilt that had been your constant companions. You retreated into the quiet of your apartment, the man's words a lingering chill. You opened the file, the scent of old paper and new secrets filling the air. Ilara's photograph stared back at you, her intelligent eyes brimming with a life brutally extinguished. You scanned the summary, the familiar details of her demise, then your gaze caught on a newly added addendum. A recent intelligence brief, detailing financial irregularities linked to Senator Caldwell's burgeoning presidential campaign. Mentions of a shadowy corporate entity known only as the Sovereign Group. The brief suggested these entities were connected to the very issues Ilara had been investigating before her death, the exploitation of vulnerable communities, the manipulation of public policy through dark money. The senator, a man whose public persona gleamed with philanthropic virtue, now stood under a shadow cast by the ghost of a journalist. The ghost of Ilara Vance did not allow you to refuse. You found the ghost of Julian Vance, a name etched into the raw edges of your past, now stirs from its shallow grave. It beckons you, a siren call from the wreckage of a career. You sit amidst the controlled chaos of your makeshift office, a constellation of yellowed articles and digital fragments spread across the scarred oak. The air hums with the unspoken questions of a decade. Vance. A meticulous mind, a relentless seeker of truth, cut down in an abandoned factory, his final words lost to the desert wind. The official report, a flimsy veil, whispered random act, robbery gone wrong. But you remember the gnawing doubt, the way the pieces never quite fit, the chilling precision of the scene. You remember the politician, then a rising star, now a presidential hopeful, whose campaign was a whisper on Vance's lips in those final, desperate weeks. You dredge up old contacts, voices from a life you thought you'd left behind. A former colleague, a quiet woman who now manages the city's digital archives, answers your guarded call. Her voice, a low current, flows through the static. Vance. He was looking into something big, Marcus. Land deals. A corporate shell game. He called it Ares Group. Said they were buying up everything, everywhere, always one step ahead of the news cycles. You follow the faint trail she lays out, a digital breadcrumb path through encrypted files Vance had squirreled away. Hours bleed into days. Your eyes ache, but a fierce clarity sharpens your focus. And its growth, its meteoric rise, mirrors the political ascent of the very politician Vance was. Investigating. You find it, a cached document, a detailed analysis by Vance. It outlines how the Ares Group systematically acquired vast tracts of land, strategically positioned along proposed infrastructure corridors championed by the politicians' campaign. The land, once valueless desert, would become prime real estate, its worth inflated by public funds. A perfect loop of influence and profit. This wasn't a random act, it was a silencing. A cryptic message appears on your burner phone, a single, untraceable text Vance's last lead. Border Patrol Station in the desert. Midnight. It's an old trick, a lure, but the desperation in the message feels authentic, a ghost reaching out. Or perhaps, it's a trap. The desert wind calls to you, a promise of truth or an invitation to oblivion. The highway unspools beneath your wheels, a black ribbon cutting through an endless expanse of scrub brush and rock. The air grows thin and sharp, carrying the scent of dust and distant creosote. A solitary floodlight casts a sickly yellow glow, illuminating a chain-link fence and a few parked vehicles. It feels abandoned, too quiet for a place of constant vigilance. You cut your engine, the sudden quiet deafening. The digital clock on your dash reads 11:58 p.m. No one is here. No contact, no hidden informant. Just the vast, indifferent desert. A prickle of unease crawls up your spine. This isn't a rendezvous, it's a stage. Then, the glint. A flicker of chrome from behind a dilapidated storage shed, reflecting the weak floodlight. You feel the hairs on your neck rise. Before you can react, the desert erupts. Headlights flare from the hidden vehicle, blinding you. An engine roars to life, and tires spit gravel as it surges forward, aiming directly for your parked car. It's not a warning shot, it's an attempt to end your journey, and you, right here. Instinct, honed by years on the street, takes over. You slam your foot on the accelerator, throwing your vehicle into reverse, narrowly avoiding the direct impact. You spin the wheel, throwing your car into a tight turn, kicking up a plume of dust that briefly obscures your escape. They don't shout warnings, they open fire. The sharp crack of gunshots slices through the desert air, followed by the metallic thud of rounds impacting your vehicle's rear. Glass shatters from your back window, raining down on the passenger seat. You push the engine, desperate for speed, swerving violently to avoid the incoming fire. You drive hard, pushing your vehicle to its limits, the desert wind screaming through the broken window. The chase is a brutal dance of acceleration and evasion. the roar of their engine a constant threat. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, you manage to put enough distance between you and your pursuers, losing them in a series of sharp turns in the vast, featureless expanse of the desert night. You pull over miles away, the engine ticking as it cools. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, the taste of dust and adrenaline thick in your mouth. Your hands tremble, not from fear, but from the raw, exhilarating surge of survival. They know. They know you're digging. And they're willing to kill to keep their secrets buried. The stakes, once personal, are now irrevocably lethal. You are on the right path, and it leads straight into the heart of the storm. The digital breadcrumb path Vance laid out, a labyrinth of encrypted files and half-hidden connections, leads you not to a sleek corporate tower, but to the parched heart of a forgotten archive. The Ares Group is no mere company, it is a whisper, a shadow stretching across disparate operations, its tendrils reaching into places you once thought sacred. Your eyes, gritty from days spent deciphering its fragmented code, finally latch onto a name, a date, a location that jolts you back to a past you'd rather keep buried. The drive out is a meditation in desolation. The asphalt shimmers, a mirage of liquid heat. Dust, fine as powdered bone, coats the windshield, blurring the already indistinct horizon. The air. Conditioner strains, a futile gasp against the furnace outside. You pass rusted husks of abandoned vehicles, skeletal saguaros standing sentinel against the relentless sun, each mile deepening the sense of isolation. This place, a crucible of harsh realities, feels far removed from the city's concrete veins, yet the files insist on its relevance. A specific incident, buried deep in the station's archives, is the thread Vance had pulled. Barbed wire fences glint menacingly under the high sun, and a single, battered flag hangs limp from its pole. The air tastes of dust and old coffee. Inside, the cool air offers little respite from the tension that tightens your jaw. The duty officer behind the counter, a man whose face is etched with years of sun and weariness, eyes you with the practiced skepticism of someone who has seen too much. You present your old, unofficial credentials, a faded shield that no longer carries the weight it once did. "I'm looking for records," you state, your voice rougher than you intend, from an incident, roughly 15 years back. A cross-border operation. File code Alpha 79er. The officer's gaze is flat, unyielding. "That's a long time ago, friend. And those files are restricted." "You got an official request?" You lean forward, your voice dropping, a low thrum of determination. "This is about a cold case. A murder. I believe there's a connection here." Your gaze drifts to a corkboard plastered with faded photos of missing persons, each face a silent plea. 15 minutes stretch into an eternity before he returns, clutching a thick, yellowed folder. He places it on the counter with a thud, the dust motes dancing in the shaft of light from a high window. "This is all I could find. Alpha 79er. Classified inactive but never fully closed. Says here it was a joint operation. Our people, and a specialized unit from the city." Your fingers tremble slightly as you open the folder. The paper crackles, brittle with age. Reports, grainy photographs, handwritten notes. The incident was a raid on a suspected smuggling ring, an operation you remembered vaguely, one of your earlier assignments. You scan the names of the officers involved, a roll call of faces from your past. Then, your breath catches. There, among the names of your former colleagues, is a signature that freezes the blood in your veins. A name you knew intimately, a man you trusted, looked up to, who had mentored you in those formative years. The commander. Your commander from back then. His signature, bold and unmistakable, authorizing a highly irregular procedure within the operation. A diversion. A deliberate misdirection that led your unit away from a specific sector of the desert, while another, unnamed team, moved in. You remember that day. The frustration of chasing ghosts while the real targets seemed to vanish. You remember the commander's calm assurances, his explanation that intelligence had shifted, that the primary objective had moved. You trusted him implicitly, followed his orders without question. And the commander, your mentor, the man who had always seemed to embody unwavering integrity, was at the heart of the deception. Your mind races, replaying conversations, re-examining decisions, seeing the subtle manipulations, the carefully crafted lies that had guided your actions 15 years ago. He hadn't just misled you, he had used you, a pawn in a larger game. The officer clears his throat, pulling you back to the dusty reality of the station. Anything useful in there, Marcus? You look up, your eyes distant, seeing not the faded report. And an end. The betrayal, a bitter taste on your tongue, ignites a new fire within you. The hunt for Vance's killer is no longer just about redemption, it's about tearing down the architects of your own downfall, one brick at a time. The commander, the Ares group, the journalist's death, it all converges into a single, burning purpose. You will find the truth, even if it means destroying everything you once believed in. The desert wind, a sculptor of sand and memory, whips around you, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant sage. You drive, the engine a low growl against the vast, indifferent silence, the asphalt ribbon stretching endlessly beneath the relentless sun. The betrayal, a raw wound, fuels your every movement, sharpening your focus, honing the edges of your resolve. Vance. The name is a brand on your consciousness, a target in the crosshairs of your renewed purpose. Hours bleed into one another, the landscape a blur of sun-baked rock and skeletal brush. It sits like a forgotten sentinel, a collection of low-slung buildings and antenna towers, stark against the canvas of the sky. Dust devils spin lazily in the distance, mirroring the chaos swirling within you. You pull your vehicle to a stop, the crunch of gravel under tires a jarring sound in the oppressive quiet. The air inside the station is cool, recycled, a stark contrast to the oven-like exterior. A uniformed officer, his face etched with the weariness of endless patrols, nods curtly as you present your old, unofficial credentials. Your past, a phantom limb, still grants you a sliver of access in these forgotten corners. You're Marcus Thorne, the officer states, his gaze assessing, lingering on the faint lines around your eyes. We got a call. Said you were looking into something old, something complicated. Complicated is an understatement, you reply, your voice a gravelly murmur. I'm looking for anything that might have passed through here recently, anything unusual. Specifically, I'm interested in a man named Vance. The officer gestures towards a small, windowless interrogation room. We picked up a runner a few days ago. Low level, trying to slip across the border with a satchel full of burner phones and a very specific flash drive. He wouldn't talk much, but what he did say, it didn't make sense to our usual operations. Mentioned a name. You follow the officer, your stride purposeful, the desert's lethargy falling away. Inside the room, a table, 2 chairs, and the lingering scent of stale coffee. On the table, a sealed evidence bag contains a small, innocuous-looking USB drive. Our tech unit couldn't crack it, the officer explains, his finger tracing the edge of the bag. Highly encrypted. But the runner, before he clammed up completely, kept repeating one phrase, "The desert holds the key, the serpent's tongue speaks truth." And he pointed to a specific symbol on one of the burner phones. The symbol on the phone, a serpentine V, is eerily familiar. You remember seeing it, etched subtly into the background of a blurry photograph from the journalist's apartment, dismissed then as a meaningless doodle. Now, it screams. "Give me a secure terminal," you demand, your voice devoid of its earlier weariness. And a quiet space. The officer, sensing the shift in your demeanor, leads you to a secluded office. You connect the drive, your mind racing, sifting through fragments of memory, old reports, forgotten details. The desert holds the key. The serpent's tongue speaks truth. You recall a snippet from the journalist's notes, a cryptic reference to a forgotten programming language, a bespoke encryption method developed years ago for high-level government communications, then abandoned. A language designed to be untraceable, uncrackable by conventional means. A forgotten key, indeed. Your fingers fly across the keyboard, a dance of instinct and long-dormant skill. The screen flickers. One folder, simply labeled Project Oasis, calls to you. You click it open. The logs reveal a direct, undeniable link between the prominent politician's campaign and a network of shell corporations. The financial ledgers trace millions of dollars funneling through these corporations, ending up in accounts tied to individuals identified only by code names, but whose real names are slowly revealed through cross-reference documents. And then, the photographs. Faces you recognize, faces you've seen in the background of news reports, at elite galas. And then, a face that makes your breath catch. But the most damning piece of evidence is a single, encrypted video file. You play it. It is Vance. The journalist, defiant, threatens to expose Project Oasis and its architect, the politician. The video cuts abruptly. Your hands clench on the edge of the desk. The true nature of the conspiracy unfolds before you like a venomous bloom. It is not just about a single murder, but a systematic subversion of the democratic process, a vast network of influence and corruption reaching into the highest echelons. The journalist wasn't killed for what he knew, but for who he knew, for the direct threat he posed to the politician's ascent. Your badge is gone, your reputation in tatters. There is no official recourse, no safe harbor. This is a solitary war. You look at the screen, at the faces of the powerful, the architects of this grand deception. Project Oasis. A mirage of virtue, built on a foundation of lies and blood. The desert wind howls outside, a mournful lament. But inside, a different sound echoes, the resolute beat of your own heart. This isn't just about redemption anymore. It's about justice, raw and unyielding. You will dismantle this. You will expose them all. The personal cost, whatever it may be, is irrelevant. You are committed. The hunt for Vance, and for all those who hide behind him, has just begun in earnest. There is no turning back. The screen flickers to life, a digital resurrection of a dead man's final testament. The journalist, you now understand, had not just been investigating. He had been documenting, meticulously, with a desperate urgency that now spills from the encrypted files. It's a ledger, a digital testament of transactions and names, not just currency but influence, favors, futures bought and sold. Your gaze locks onto a recurring alias, a phantom signature beneath layers of shell corporations and offshore accounts. The Architect. This name, whispered in hushed tones in your old world, now stands illuminated, a keystone in the arch of shadows. And then, a series of dates, aligning with the politician's campaign trail, donations flowing into obscure trusts, funneled through the very same entities linked to the Architect. The journalist had been tracing the blood money, the silent strings that pulled the puppet politician. The murder, then, was not a random act of violence, but a precise, surgical silencing. A chill, sharper than the desert night, snakes down your spine. A sharp rap on the door jolts you. Your hand instinctively moves, hovering over the laptop. Marcus? It's the officer from before, his voice now edged with a peculiar tension. The commander wants a word. Immediately. Your eyes dart to the clock on the wall. Too soon. Too sudden. They know. The air in the room, once stale, now feels charged, a static hum of impending discovery. You disconnect the drive, tucking it deep into your inner jacket pocket. The commander's summons is a trap, a net cast. They haven't just sensed your progress, they've confirmed it. You rise, a calculated slowness in your movements. Of course, you say, your voice a calm counterpoint to the frantic rhythm of your pulse. You step out, the officer's gaze lingering, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. He gestures towards a corridor. This way. But your instincts, honed by years of walking the razor's edge, scream a different direction. You catch a glimpse of a monitor down the hall, reflecting a news channel. Your face, grim and unyielding, flashes across the screen. Disgraced former detective Marcus Thorne, now wanted for questioning in connection with. The words blur, but the message is stark. They've framed you, already. You are no longer merely investigating, you are hunted. The officer turns, his hand reaching for your arm. Marcus, what's this about? His voice is laced with genuine confusion. The urgency in his posture betrays a deeper concern. They're coming for me, you state, your voice low, devoid of plea or panic. And for this. You tap your chest, indicating the drive. His eyes widen, understanding dawning, a grim acceptance of the danger you both now share. The commander's office is that way, he says, nodding down the corridor he'd indicated. But his eyes flick towards a less used service exit, barely perceptible behind a stack of supply crates. A silent communication passes between you, a fragile bridge built on shared suspicion and a nascent sense of justice. You nod, a quick, almost imperceptible gesture. Thanks, you murmur, then pivot sharply, not towards the commander's office, but towards the faint glint of the service exit. Every corner, every shadowed alcove, a potential escape route or a dead end. Voices rise in urgency from the main hall. Shouts, the heavy thud of boots. They're aware. The hunt has begun. You burst through the service door, the harsh desert sun a sudden, blinding assault. The air is thick with dust and the scent of creosote. A patrol vehicle, engine idling, sits nearby. Its driver, a young agent, is distracted, fiddling with a radio. This is your chance. In one fluid motion, you're at the vehicle, wrenching open the door. The agent yelps, startled, fumbling for his sidearm. But you're faster, stronger, propelled by the sheer force of desperation and purpose. A swift, precise strike to the temple, and he crumples, unconscious, before he can even clear leather. You slide into the driver's seat, the keys still in the ignition. The engine roars to life, a defiant challenge against the rising alarm from within the station. You slam the vehicle into reverse, tires spitting gravel, then spin it around, heading for the fence line. The desert stretches before you, an endless expanse of scrub brush and shifting dunes, a canvas for evasion. Behind you, sirens wail, a chorus of pursuit. Headlights ignite in your rearview mirror, growing brighter, closer. They have vehicles, they have numbers, but you have the desert, and a lifetime of outsmarting the odds. Your mind races, connecting the fragmented pieces. The architect, the politician, the journalist's ledger. The drive in your pocket holds the key, the final puzzle piece that could unravel it all. But first, you must survive. You push the vehicle harder, a plume of dust rising in your wake, obscuring your pursuers for a precious few seconds. The sun dips lower, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, a fleeting beauty against the backdrop of your desperate flight. You are a ghost now, a phantom in the dust, hunted by the very system you once served. Your fingers tighten on the steering wheel, knuckles white. The stakes have never been higher. The weight of the journalist's sacrifice, the fate of justice itself, now rests in your hands, a heavy, burning truth carried across the unforgiving desert floor. And you will not falter. This wasn't an oversight. This was a trap. Well, a voice drawled from the shadows, smooth and unhurried. Look what the cat dragged in. A ghost, back from the grave. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and lean, with eyes that held the same detached coldness as the man who'd offered you the case. He wasn't the emissary, but he carried the same aura of calculated menace. He must have been waiting. You're making a nuisance of yourself, Marcus Thorne, he continued, a faint smile playing on his lips. Some things are best left undisturbed. Ilara Vance learned that the hard way. What did she find? You demanded, your voice steady despite the tremor in your hands. He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. More than he should have. More than you will. Consider this a friendly warning. Go home, Marcus. Reclaim your obscurity. Then, from the ceiling, a loud, grating alarm blared, piercing the quiet. Time to leave, he said, his smile widening. Unless you want to explain to the local authorities why you've broken into a decommissioned federal facility. They're very understanding about trespassers, especially ones with your reputation. The threat was clear. He wanted you caught, not killed, not yet. He wanted to discredit you again, to bury you under another layer of suspicion and public humiliation. It was a clever play, designed to break your spirit, to remind you of the very downfall you were trying to escape. As the alarm shrieked, echoing through the empty facility, you knew he wouldn't kill you here. Not when discrediting you served a greater purpose. The stakes had just been raised, confirming that Ilara's SG wasn't just a shadowy corporate entity, but a ruthless organization willing to use any means necessary to protect its secrets. They were watching you, Marcus, a silent, pervasive threat that tightened its grip around your throat. Your identity as a disgraced detective was being weaponized against you, a constant reminder of the fragility of your pursuit of truth. The encounter at Stone's Haven, the chilling precision of the trap, confirmed that the Sovereign Group was not merely a financial entity but a network of operatives, highly organized and ruthless. They knew your every move, perhaps even your every thought. The question gnawed at you: how? You returned to your apartment, the alarm screech still ringing in your ears, the metallic tang of fear on your tongue. You re-examined Ilara's notebook, searching for anything you might have missed, any clue to the source of their omniscience. Her notes on identity management and migrant flow kept resurfacing. You remembered the missing migrant family case from years ago, the one that had contributed to your disgrace. A family had vanished without a trace, and you, overwhelmed by personal demons, had dismissed it as a simple border crossing gone wrong, a case quickly overshadowed by the sensationalism of Ilara's murder investigation. You had been too blinded by your own internal turmoil to see the connections, too eager to close the file and move on. Ilara Vance had been investigating that the harsh fluorescent light of the border patrol station in the desert hums, a low, constant drone that vibrates through your bones. The air, despite the building's sterile containment, still carries the faint, abrasive scent of dust and distant mesquite, an echo of the vast, unforgiving landscape outside. You sit on a bolted-down bench, the cold metal seeping into your worn jeans, your hands resting open on your knees. No cuffs, no immediate threat, but the unspoken weight of consequence presses down like the desert sun. Your gaze drifts to the frosted glass of a nearby window, beyond which the pale, pre-dawn sky begins to bleed a weak orange at the horizon. It is not the desert you once knew, the one you patrolled in brighter, simpler days. This is a desert of secrets, of the abandoned and the exposed. A federal investigator, a man whose face is a roadmap of exhaustion and quiet authority, enters the room. He carries a tablet, its screen a glowing rectangle in the dim space. His eyes, devoid of judgment, meet yours. "Marcus," he says, his voice a gravelly murmur, "the former senator has been apprehended. He was found attempting to board a private jet out of the country. His aide, too, was picked up at a safe house near the airfield. A breath you didn't realize you were holding escapes you, a faint plume in the cool air. The political titan, the architect of a silent empire, now reduced to a fugitive. The image of the journalist, her brilliant eyes, her eager pursuit of truth, flashes in your mind. This, then, is a piece of her justice. And the others, you ask, your voice a dry rasp. The architects of the organization? The investigator nods slowly, scrolling on his tablet. Early reports are still coming in. Several high-profile arrests were made overnight, across multiple states. Names you'd recognize from the financial sector, from lobbying firms. The network, as you described it, is unraveling. Your intel was precise, Marcus. Disturbingly precise. You offer no response, only a faint tightening of your jaw. Precision came at a price, a currency paid in sweat and shadows and the ghost of a badge. He pauses, then looks up, his gaze steady. The news is a firestorm. Your name is everywhere. Not just as a wanted man, but as the one who brought it all down. The public is divided. Some call you a hero, others a rogue agent who defied the law. He gestures to the tablet. The story of the journalist, her murder, the cover-up. It's being re-examined. The official narrative, The one that dismissed it as a random street crime is crumbling. A bitter taste coats your tongue. Random street crime. The lie that festered for years, poisoning your career, your reputation, your very soul. You recall the initial reports, the dismissive tone, the hurried conclusions. The convenient blind spots. The journalist's source, you begin, the question hanging in the quiet room. The one he was meeting, the one who betrayed her. The investigator's expression darkens. That's the difficult part. It seems the senator wasn't working alone in that particular aspect. There was another, a deep-cover operative within her own circle, providing information, misdirecting her investigations at critical junctures. This is the new, unsettling piece of the puzzle. He exhales slowly, his gaze distant, fixed on some unseen point. It was revealed in a confession from one of the senator's arrested lieutenants. A desperate attempt to lessen his own sentence. The operative's name is Marcus Thorne. The words hang in the air, sharp and impossibly heavy. Your own name, a poisoned arrow aimed back at you. Your mind reels, trying to reconcile the impossibility. You, the betrayer? You state, your voice devoid of emotion, a flat declaration against the absurdity. A fabrication to discredit everything. The investigator holds up a placating hand. We know. Marcus. The lieutenant's testimony included details that clearly implicated another individual, a man with a similar background and a history of working for clandestine operations, who used your name as a cover, exploiting your disgraced status. The real Marcus Thorne, the one who ordered the hit, has been identified. He's already been apprehended attempting to flee across the border himself, further south. The resemblance is striking, in old records. Enough to fool those who weren't looking too closely. The revelation hits you like a physical blow. A cruel, poetic irony. The tension in the room shifts, from immediate threat to a deeper, more unsettling truth. Your redemption, hard-won and bloodied, now came with the added weight of this monstrous doppelganger. The world would see two Marcus Thornes, the disgraced detective and the phantom operative who used his name to kill a journalist. Explaining that distinction would be a battle unto itself. You stare at the frosted window, the desert sky growing brighter, painting streaks of orange and purple. The air still smells of dust and faint hope. The fight, it seems, has only just begun. The revelation had indeed struck you like a physical blow, leaving you gasping, not for air, but for a coherent narrative. Another Marcus Thorne. You stand at a reinforced window, the vast, bruised sky mirroring the turmoil within. The dust-choked air tastes of old secrets and new beginnings, a stark contrast to the sterile, fluorescent hum of the room behind you. Just hours ago, in a cavernous underground bunker, a forgotten nexus of the shadowy organization's illicit operations, the tangled threads finally unspooled. The other Marcus was no phantom, but a ghost conjured by design, a mercenary with a face grafted from your own, a skilled mimicry perfected through surgical precision and deep psychological profiling. Not the politician himself, who remained insulated by layers of legal maneuverings and political power, but a crucial cog in his machine. The operative, cornered amidst server racks and forgotten dossiers, had cracked under the weight of irrefutable evidence you meticulously pieced together. He confessed to orchestrating the journalist's murder, using the fabricated Marcus Thorne to frame you, ensuring both threats, the journalist's exposé and your relentless investigation, were neutralized simultaneously. Your initial investigation, so close to the truth, made you a liability they could not afford to leave unblemished. The confession, painstakingly recorded and corroborated by digital footprints you unearthed, was a devastating blow to the politician's presidential campaign. The news had already begun to ripple, fracturing the carefully constructed facade. The public, once swayed by charismatic speeches, now saw the cracks, the insidious rot beneath. Justice, in this moment, felt less like a swift sword and more like a glacial grind, but the ice had begun to crack. You press your palm against the cool glass, the vibrations of a distant helicopter a dull thrum against your bones. The desert stretches, an ocean of ochre and rust, indifferent to the machinations of men. Now, a different kind of quiet settles, not of shame, but of exhaustion and a nascent, unfamiliar peace. The detective, a woman whose sharp eyes had watched your every move with a blend of skepticism and grudging respect, approaches. "The official statement is going out now," she says, her voice low, devoid of triumph, merely stating fact. "The journalist's murder has been officially reopened, your name cleared of all charges." The operative is singing. "It's not everything, but it's a start." The politician's career is over, Marcus. You nod, a slow, deliberate movement. "A start," you echo. Its tendrils were too deep, too pervasive, to be severed by a single exposure. But you had wounded it. You had exposed its methods, its reach, and in doing so, you had validated the journalist's final, brave work. You had given a voice to the voiceless, a truth to the buried. Your badge, once a symbol of integrity, then a mark of ignominy, now feels like a distant memory, a heavy weight you no longer carry. The system had broken you, then allowed you to mend yourself, outside its rigid confines. You are no longer bound by its rules, nor its limitations. This realization is both freeing and daunting. The path ahead is not one paved with promotions or accolades, but with the stark, unyielding terrain of a self-determined justice. A colleague, a younger man who had once openly doubted you, now offers a hesitant hand. "What will you do now, Marcus?" he asks, his gaze holding an unasked question, perhaps an offer, perhaps a warning. You turn from the window, the vast, unforgiving landscape still burned into your retinas. "I'll keep digging," you say, the words firm, resonant with a purpose that had long been dormant. Not for a badge, not for vindication. You have looked them in the eye, understood their genesis, and in doing so, you have stripped them of their power. The scar remains, a testament to the battle fought, but the wound is no longer festering. You walk towards the door, the gritty dust clinging to your boots, a silent companion to the journey you have endured. The air outside is cool, carrying the scent of creosote and distant possibility. The world, still fractured, still unjust, stretches before you. But you, Marcus Thorne, are no longer a man lost in its labyrinth.